and lead us in prayer.
Father, we thank you and we honor you for such a great day. And God, we start this day by seeking you first, knowing that your promise is that you will add all things unto us. And so, Father, today we thank you, God, that us as parents and community leaders, business leaders and civic leaders can come together for the benefit of the children and our school system, God. We thank you, Lord Father, that there's an education system that enlarges their capacity to think and be productive citizens in our community. And God, as they are embarking on a new year, we pray that you would cover our school system, that you would cover every teacher and every administrator, every custodian, every bus driver, and every child. We present them to you now in the name of Jesus. And we ask, Lord Father, that even though we see issues and problems in our school systems, we know we can present them to you because you are the solution and you are the answer. So, Father, as we are here today, open our ears, open our eyes, download solutions to us today that we can go and be change agents for you, and we can steward our children and this education system that you've blessed us with in a great and mighty way. We thank you for what you delivered to us today. We thank you for every presenter. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. I want to take a moment and thank all of our sponsors for making this symposium possible. Special thanks to Bank of America, special thanks to Atrium Health and Foundation for the Carolinas. Also, I'm looking out and I see some county commissioners, I see some folks from the school system, I see some nonprofit leaders, and I'm really excited to see the parents who are here today to be empowered for success in CMS. We have some special greetings that we will receive now from two of our biggest community supporters. These two individuals are giants in our community, and we're so grateful for their being here today and for all of their support. We are here in large measure because of their support. So we're going to hear from two special individuals. The first one is the Executive Vice President for Foundation for the Carolinas, Brian Collier, and we will be followed by Fernando Little, who is the Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer at Atrium. Let's receive them with love.
That's quite a greeting of your own there. Thank you. Well, on behalf of Foundation for the Carolinas, I just want to thank everyone for coming out. We are so proud to be a partner with this event and the one in February. And it's just amazing to see people turn out on a Saturday morning because you care, because you are interested in the future of our community. I guess one thing I would say is, I was talking to Mr. Griffin a few minutes ago about sort of why is this important? And it's important because we need, for the success of this community, we need every child to be successful and to come back and be a contributor to the success of this community. And it starts with that child feeling valued and respected, and that they matter, and that they can achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve because we have given them the tools and resources and social networks and everything that they need in order to be successful. But that starts with the parents caring, showing them love. It then starts with the community showing them love, and obviously then their education, which is what we're about here today, is ensuring that they have a quality of education that prepares them to be curious and to pursue what makes them happy. So with that, I just want to thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I wish you much success.
Good morning, everyone. As Dr. Williams said, my name is Fernando Little. I serve as the Chief Diversity Officer for Atrium Health. And I must say, as I was walking in, I was feeling this genuine spirit and energy in this room. And it made me feel or remember or reflect on how I felt When I was a senior at Garinger High School in 1994, I was fortunate enough to serve Garinger High School as their student body president, and you couldn't tell me anything because we had a community of support just like this one standing behind us. And I'll tell you, that year in 1994, there may have been maybe 11 or 12 high schools. Out of the 11 or 12 high schools, 8 of us were student body presidents and African American. And we were not only leading our student bodies, but we represented the top 5% of our student body. We were all able to go to college on full scholarships. That's the caliber of students that I was serving with at the time in 1994. And I'll never forget, during the time that year, right at the end of the year, Dee Dixon, who was the editor of Community Pride, she was so proud of us. And hopefully I'm not telling Dee's age. She's not in the room, is she? Because she was so proud of us that she put us all on the cover of her magazine, right? And we all got to give a little media interview, right? And they wrote a little article about us. And all of us attributed our confidence, our academic success, and our aspirations to our parents, our churches, and the faculty that believed in us, and the teachers that believed in us. And so that's why I was feeling good when I walked into this room today, because that same energy that I felt in 1994, especially when I was on the cover of that magazine, I told my mom, I look like Mario Van Peebles thrown out on this magazine. And she just did what y'all did, laughed, and just did. I don't know if she agreed or didn't agree, but I will say that I felt that same energy when I was a senior in high school at Garinger High School. So what I will say is, on behalf of Atrium Health, thank you for making the choice to be here today. Thank you for recognizing that education is one of the key social determinants, even of health and wellness. So when we think about health and wellness in our community, 20% of your healing, health, and wellness happens while you're inside the hospital. 70 to 80% happens based on what happens to you outside of the hospital. And obtaining a good education is one of those determinants of good health. I don't know if we process that, but obtaining a good education is one of those determinants, in addition to affordable housing, meaningful employment, good food security, those things. And so we're going to champion those just as much as we want you to have a good experience inside the hospital. We are a community partner outside the hospital. It is our pleasure to be a partner with this. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for your continued leadership, Commissioner Lee, all the other political representatives here today. We can do this. We are better together. You all are giving me reflections of 94. Let's get it. Let's start the year off wonderful. We look forward to good things this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Just before Commissioner Lee comes up with opening remarks, I do want to say welcome to all of those who are watching us online. And I want to say to the crowd here that we are taping the session so that it will become a resource for parents throughout the year and maybe even beyond. Let me tell you what you can expect today. You can expect to learn about how to connect with the school system so that you can have success for your children. You'll learn how to connect with the school system at the school level. You'll hear about how to connect with the school system at the community, learning community level. You'll hear about how to connect with the superintendent and hear about board involvement if that's necessary. So we have all of that in store for you today. But not only that, we're going to let someone come up and talk about the opening of school challenges that you have as parents. We're going to talk about student responsibilities. We're going to talk about parent responsibilities. But the piece today that really excites me is that we have a roundtable discussion plan where we can listen to parents' ideas and concerns. And so that we know exactly what you're going through, where you need help, so that we can be an advocate for our parents in our communities. I do believe that we have so many parents who are just giving up. And we have so many parents who are in survival mode, trying to make a living, and it's hard to connect with them to support their children. But I believe with everything in me, they want their children to be successful in school. So we need to think creatively outside of the box and think about parental involvement in different ways to allow them to be involved. And I don't know what's happening at the school building level, but I'm hearing some talk about the schools are not being open to parents. That is unacceptable. That will not continue. So I want the parents to know that we're here for them and we'll fight whatever fight we need to fight so that principals and teachers will recruit and be actively involved in making sure they have strong PTAs, PTOs, and that parents feel like, hey, this is our school, it's a community school. And when we embrace our parents like that, and we service the families so that when those kids go back home, they go to a solid environment that support the goals that we have for them, we can see great things happening. So I want to say to parents, we love you, we are for you, we will fight for you and your children, and together we must develop better performing schools in CMS. Our future as a city depends on it. So thank you so much for being online. Thank you for those who are here. I want you to start thinking about what questions you may have. I want you to write them down. I want you to start thinking about what concerns you have. I want you to write them down. And you will find a strong advocate in the Faith Alliance to support your family, your concerns, so that we can do what we're all about, and that is to make sure that all kids achieve academically at high levels. So let's show some love to the Education Commissioner, Commissioner Vimalik.
You know, it's dangerous to put a mic in the hand of a preacher. You know that, don't you? They swallow the mic. But I just want to say thank you for being here this morning and sacrificing your time to be with us, to work with the young people and young parents who have yet to understand the process of what their role is as parents in education. And I'm so grateful for this organization for affording me the opportunity to be a part of. A young lady walked in and gave me a check, and I didn't know what to do with it. It wasn't made out to me, so I know I can't spend it. But I do know that she supports everything that we do in this community. Stand up, Ms. Mingo. She's going to be mad as she can be with me. Stand up, Ms. Mingo. And she's from Washington, D.C. Dr. Williams, here's a check for $50 from this young lady. So the former speakers just a few minutes ago, and when the young man said he was a student at Garinger some years ago, if many of us have been in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, we knew what the school system was like then. And Dr. Pusely and Arthur Griffin and myself and several others served on the school board. And we're honored to have served this public in that capacity. And we think we know it all. You know how we are. We have every answer. We know what's going on and we got every answer, but that's not true. There are others who have the answers also. So I want to thank this committee for working with us and working with this community. In your hands, you have a booklet. Nothing is second class, everything is first class with this group. So I'm so excited that you can see this booklet and make sure you look at the program. And this is going to be ongoing. We won't stop after this, we must continue. And I'm glad to see a member of the school board who's here today. She and I don't like each other, but we do love each other. So I'm just happy that she took it upon herself to come and be a part of us today, as well as a county commissioner. I don't like her either. And the reason I don't like her, I better not say that because that's dangerous. We respect each other, I'll say that. But to all of the members of this organization, please raise your hands. Some of you are moving around. These are the workingest people in this organization that we could have. So you saw me come up with a walking cane. I keep that for protection. You know, so people pretend they got a limp, and when you bother them, they use this cane to take care of protecting themselves. But I fell at the government center just before the virus came, and they would not operate. So we are in the mode now of getting ready to have that surgery. So continue to pray for me, pray for all of us. Parents, let me see the hands of parents. I'm a parent. Whether you birth children or not, you are a parent because they're your responsibility. Whether you birth them or not, they belong to us. Where's Mr. Porter? I have taken his 2 children. He's outside. His daughter just finished dental school, and she graduated from West Charlotte Senior High School, and where they said we couldn't graduate good students. But she finished medical school and is now in Boston. So we are grateful for that family and for those children. And Dr. Pusey is sitting there, he and I don't like each other either. But he's in charge, so I have to follow his direction. You know how that is. Somebody else knows just a little bit more than we do. A little bit more. You hear what I said? A little bit more. But I love him to death. Love Dr. Pusey because I respect his leadership. And I'm going to stop here because you came to get some information. But the young man who said he finished Garinger, at that day and time, it was a struggle for students to do well. And we had good teachers and we had good people. And Dr. Williams, were you working in the system at that time? What was your capacity? What's an entrance suit? What is that?
That's
Who ball? Just to have a little fun, that's all. That's all. But again, let me say thank you. And I want to thank our manager, county manager, for affording us to use this facility and this community to make it available to the community and the public. So again, thank you for being here. You may think this is a small group. And my thing is Jesus only had 12 and he turned the world upside down. So with your voice, we're going to turn this community upside down and make sure that we have the kind of education that's amenable for our children. Where's Arthur Griffin? Stand up, Arthur. Arthur was our chairman of the school board, and we worked him to death at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. I would call Arthur. But you can't take care of business always at the right time. You have to make sure that the time is right to communicate. I apologize, but thanks for those times, Arthur, that we talked. Be blessed, have a wonderful day, and have a wonderful experience. Give us recommendations of things we need to do and how we need to do it so that we can meet the needs of the public. Be blessed. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Leak. At this time, we're going to jump right into the first presentation under the banner, Engaging, Educating, and Empowering Parents for Success in CMS. And our first speaker is a former CMS educator and community advocate, Annette Albright.
No, I just setting it up. Sit down, please. And am I on? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for coming out on a Saturday morning. I know you could be a number of places, but we are super excited that you are here. Thank you to the African American Faith Alliance for inviting me out. They've given me 20 minutes to make this presentation. So as I'm sure Jennifer Lopez has told Ben Affleck, I will not be keeping you long. Okay. So again, my name is Annette Albright, and I came to Charlotte in about 1990. I came with my 2-year-old daughter and a lot of dreams and big plans. I adopted 3 children from the Department of Social Services here and raised them as a single parent. So I've had 4 children to go through the school system here in Charlotte, Mecklenburg. One of the things that I have always been excited about is education. I'm a former probation parole officer, former CMS employee. And one thing that I love to boast about is I have actually worked the school to prison pipeline. So I know exactly what that looks like, how students get into that pipeline and what it takes to get them out. And the most convenient tool that they have at their disposal is education. So education is very, very important to me. So with that, let's move on. So my part that I'm going to talk about today is the importance of parental engagement during the academic process. And if you don't leave here with anything else today, I think we're going to all leave with a new word or new term that I hope to hear across the district. About 2 weeks ago, I was asked to be a part of a panel, and the topic was parental involvement. And we had a lady on the panel from DC, and she is a director of public policy and data analytics. And the first thing she said to us was, stop saying parental involvement. We don't want parental involvement. Parental involvement is good, but we have to move parents to parental involvement. And I said, so, okay, what is it that we want? And she said, we want parents to be engaged. And when I say engaged, the way she explained it to me, and her name was Renetta Lyons, and she is so amazing. Parental involvement looks like these things: attending back to school night, volunteering to work at book fairs, attending parent conferences and meetings, attending different type of organizations and working the carpool line. The thing is, those different things take physical presence in the building by the parents. And for some parents, that's overwhelming. When you look at a parent that may be a single parent or has 3 or 4 different children in different grade levels, and then saying, okay, I need to be at the school, that is very overwhelming. So what we want to look at is parental engagement. And what does parental engagement look like? Parental engagement is a continuum of support from that parent to the child. And if you are increasing engagement between the child and the parent, you're also going to increase engagement with the educator. And eventually, that's going to move up to that parent being more involved in the school. So what does parental engagement look like? Parental engagement is that parent checking on that child to make sure that they have their homework done on a daily basis. Parental engagement is that parent ensuring that that child is getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night, so they're up, prepared, and ready to go to school. Parental engagement is that parent picking up the phone and calling the educator and saying, hey, how would you like me to communicate with you? I prefer text, or I prefer email, or I like to go onto your social media website. So that's what parental engagement is. Parental engagement, go back. Parental engagement happens on a continuum and provides parental support that is ongoing. It does not take parental presence in the actual building. So that's something that we can start with. And we can start with the parent. The parent is typically in the home. The child is typically in the home. And that is not as overwhelming as saying, hey, after you work your 12-hour shift, we need you to come down to the school for a meeting. So what are the effects of parental engagement? And doing my research for this particular presentation, I went to the education of data statistics. So we know that when kids are more engaged, they have better grades. When they have better grades, they opt for more advanced courses. We also know that they're graduating, and they're being promoted on time. And they're also graduating with more credits. The young lady in the middle slide is from Kentucky. She's 15 years old, and she graduated high school with college credits. And her mother is a single parent. But her mother was also a very engaged parent, not so much with the school, but with ensuring that her daughter did what she was supposed to do. We also know that parental engagement increases attendance and child participation in the room. Parental engagement increases behavior skills to interact with people that don't necessarily look like them, and also social skills. And lastly, and what's my favorite slide, is these two little girls right here, Miss Sassy 1 and Miss Sassy 2. Parental engagement increases self-esteem and self-confidence. So the National Center of Education got together and they came up with statistics. And what they did, they spoke with 100 schools. And they said, hey, what do you guys perceive as the challenges to parental engagement? Because, of course, there are challenges, or every parent would be doing it. And so they put these things in order from what they thought was the most significant on down. And the first thing they cited was lack of time. They felt like parents just did not have time to be engaged with their children. The next one was lack of education to help their students with homework. And this is huge because I was a tutor at CMS. And I thought that I knew how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. But somehow I earned a master's degree. But when I went in to tutor third grade students, I found out that the way I added, subtract, multiply, and divide was not the way third grade students were being taught to add, subtract, and multiply, and divide. So I actually had to sit down with a third grade math teacher, and she taught me the way they needed me to tutor the students. So like I said, I have a master's degree. Think about a parent who dropped out of high school, who now feels like they can't teach their child third grade math. And think about the embarrassment that they feel. So that is huge. And that is a barrier that we definitely have to remove. Language differences between parents and staff. As we're seeing, Charlotte is growing, and we're seeing that the Latino, because I was corrected, I was asked not to call them Hispanics, that the proper form is Latino. So as we're seeing the Latino community increase, we are seeing those language barriers, and we are seeing teachers who, don't speak across that spectrum. All they speak is English. So that is a huge barrier for parents. So these are what we call school-based barriers. And these are barriers that the school is saying, hey, we can do better. Lack of time on the part of school staff. And, our educators are the most overworked group of people in the United States. Absolutely. the time that they spend after school and on weekends, we cannot pay them enough. So I don't think that this is intentional, but we have to do better. Lack of staff training in working with parents. Another phenomenon we're also seeing is we're having very young teachers come out of college straight into the classroom, and they never even dealt with any other culture other than their own. Not only, cultural differences, but language barriers. So these are things that the school could do better. And as Ms. Commissioner Leek mentioned, staff attitude toward parents. That is also huge, because you're not going to go to a place where you don't feel welcome, appreciated, or respected. And concerns about safety in the area after schools, because a lot of engagement has to happen after school hours. But if you don't feel safe in that community, as a teacher, you're running to your car, you're getting home, and parents are saying, hey, we're not coming to that side of town. So these are things that our schools are saying that they can do better. So where do we start? How do we increase parental engagement? Again, what I hope that we do today, that everyone takes out of this room, is that we're no longer using the word parental involvement. Because remember, that's temporary. That's attending an event or a parent-teacher conference. What we want to increase is parental engagement. And I have no idea why my little man has a Q outfit on, but that's not saying that we're looking to get a certain person in office, okay? So where do we start? So I have been on the campaign trail 2 different times. And one thing that I always heard is that we have to meet the students where they are. We have to meet students where they are. But what about the parents? When are we going to start meeting the parents where they are? Absolutely. So if we started meeting the parents where they are, the parents are going to become more engaged with the child, and then the parent is also going to become more engaged with the student, and that's going to increase that continuum to parent involvement within the school. So engagement between parents and teachers and with the student is essential to help children feel valued and important, and efforts to remain connected. So remember that key word, not necessarily that parent is showing up to opening night, but the fact that we need that parent to remain connected, no matter how small, will help create deep and meaningful consistency for the child at home and at school. So we have to increase. If you don't walk around out with anything else but this, please remember that the goal right now should be to increase the engagement between the parent, the student, and the teacher. So these are my resources listed. My name's Annette Albright, and that's my phone number. If you need me, if you have any questions, please reach out, and I will take any questions that you have now. I knew I was perfect. I knew it. Again, thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
That was absolutely incredible. Remember that name, Miss Annette Albright.
Oh.
Come on, give her another round of applause.
With me home and everything.
Next, we're going to have a very special lady coming up talking about something that we all need to know about, and that's how to engage as a parent at the school level. And coming to share with us at this time is former PTA president and education advocate, Miss Connie Cabbs. Where's Connie? Hey. All right.
Pretty loud now. I don't know. Tell me, can you hear me? All right, awesome.
Good morning to everybody. I first want to thank the African American Faith Alliance for giving me this opportunity to stand before you and talk to you today about something that is near, dear to my heart, is where we stand as parents and our role in educating our children and supporting our school system. So I'm honored to be here and I'm excited to be here. And as Ms. Albright said, and Commissioner Leek said, this room is full. And I like to say that we're not going to look at it as half empty. This room is full because you're here and that you have a vested interest. You took the time out to come out and connect with other people. So this room is very full and very powerful. So thank you all again. My name is Connie Cabbs. I have been an advocate here in Charlotte Mecklenburg school system. I think when they came up with the I am CMS too. I am a graduate of East Mecklenburg High School. Go Eagles. And my children have all gone through Charlotte Mecklenburg schools as well. I tell people of all the titles that I've had. I've been the Mecklenburg County PTA president, overseeing 122 PTAs in this county. I've served for 3 terms, on the North Carolina PTA, and I served on the governance committee for National PTA. While all of those are great things, and I have been honored to serve in those capacities, my most important role has been a wife of going on 23 years coming up this month, a mom and a grandmother, affectionately known as Lovey. My most important titles. I'm sure you have those titles as well out here. Family and community engagement. And again, as Ms. Albright said, the word that is most important here is engagement. Because if we are able to engage our parents in such a way, we will get the level of involvement that we need for all those things that she outlined in her slide to accomplish the things that we need to do inside of our schools to help our children be successful and to get and retain the highest of greatest educators. We can get you as parents to come into the building, connect you to form those relationships so that you yourself see up close and personally the things that are needed in the school to help the children be successful and lend those hands, your working hands, to those staff members. Because we do know that many hands make lighter work. Fostering relationships, tapping into the opportunities, the talents, the skills that our parents have. Again, as Ms. Albright said, that you don't have to be in the building to be effective and impactful. As a matter of fact, the people who impact our schools the most are the people that are out in the community working for the schools on behalf of the children, on behalf of the students. And so you don't have to leave your job, because we need you there to support your babies financially. But there's so many things that you possess and you hold that are unique to you that we just want to tap into, that hopefully you will come forward and you will share those many talents and engage and foster relationships that you connect with other people. So together our voices are louder, they're better. Together we can make things happen and we can make the changes necessary in our schools. Utilizing our resources. View each stakeholder as a resource. Every single parent that comes through that door with their child is a stakeholder and they are a resource. They possess something. You all possess something that we need in order to make our schools successful. And when we have that, then it's also that I've learned that oftentimes even people who are employed by CMS don't even know all of what CMS has to offer. And it's not because it's not there, it's just because they don't know how to navigate it, or they don't know how to get it. They don't know that it exists. And they also don't know that if it doesn't exist, it exists in us, and that we can make it happen because, again, each of us are a resource. Partnerships, focusing on the needs of the students and working together to improve positive outcomes for all children. So again, that partnership comes from building relationships, getting engaged, utilizing your resources, and bringing all of your talents to the schools. As parents, guys, this is where we are the most important part and asset to student success. So where do we fit in? I think I might have covered it. I think Ms. Albright might have covered it. Our part, our role. And I want to pause right there and say, I don't know for you guys, but I can just say this. One thing that came out of COVID was that it reiterated and redefined to remind us that as parents, we are our children's first educators. I'm going to say it again. We are our children's first educators. And when things have to pivot and things have to change, nobody changes better and makes those changes than a parent or guardian or a caregiver, because you're accustomed to doing it every day, all the time. So again, thank you. So again, what we have to remember is, where do we fit in? We fit in where we can jump in. We fit in where we seize the opportunities. We jump in, we fit in, knowing that we are the stakeholders that holds the key to our kids' success. And that when doors are closed, because I heard someone say that they're talking about keeping doors closed, we are the door openers. And by using our voice and our talents and our resources, and a lot of times, just like you as a parent, our leaders sometimes don't know what's going on because there are sometimes not boots on the ground, or they're so widespread that they don't have a close view of what's going on. So guys, it's important that we connect with our elected officials. We connect with those people that are in the seats that we have elected them to be in, and go back and remind them by being engaged, by using our resources, by using our voice, what's actually going on in our schools. This is where we fit in. Engage me. Every school should have a plan of action that outlines how stakeholders can access opportunities to serve their school community. Here are a few opportunities to look for, but this is very short list. But this is where you can get started. Every school should have a school improvement team. If you're not familiar with the school improvement team, how it serves your school, and the impact that your voice has on the school improvement team, I ask and plead with you to go find out. See me, I will tell you all about it. But please ask your schools, get involved on the school improvement team. If your school doesn't have a PTA or a PTO, and all schools don't have PTAs or PTOs, or even a parent group. It doesn't have to be a PTA or a PTO. It could be a parent group. But guys, you need to have something in the school where you are able to collaborate and engage with other parents, community partners, and the staff. Community groups and organizations such as the African American Faith Alliance and other organizations that are supporting changes and outcomes for students. You get connected and know what community groups and organizations are within your community, so again, that you can become further engaged. Let's connect. So I would love to talk with any of you all. I put because I served in the capacity of North Carolina PTA, I did put up their website for additional information. They always have a wealth of information from not just how to engage and get involved in your school, but nationally, they talk about safety, wellness. They have different platforms and opportunities for you to get connected and engaged. For our parents here that have seniors, there are scholarships out there through many platforms and reflections programs for kids who like art. Just a wealth of information there. And then most importantly, if you haven't done so and you don't have to be a parent, register to be a CMS volunteer. Don't miss the opportunity when the opportunity becomes available to be able to step your foot in the door and be able to utilize those talents and skills. It's imperative that everyone in this room, regardless of whether you have a child currently in school or a child in school or your community partner, please do go and register at CMS to be a CMS volunteer. And that volunteer is required for you to do that yearly. My name is Connie Cabs, and that is my email. I need you to be a volunteer too. All right. Volunteers. I like what Mr. Ash said here is that volunteer. Start where you are. Ms. Albright said that. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. every time, every person in here, people think sometimes you have to do a multitude of things, or you have to be a stay-at-home mom, or you have to be a person that just has a lot of money or wealth or whatever. The wealth is in everything that we are and what we have to offer, guys. And so please do what you can, because if all of us do what we can, we will see the change and we will see the success in the schools that we want to see. All right. My name is Connie. I'm going to get out your way, but thank you guys so much again.
Thank you so very much.
We're going to have a question. Yes. Yeah. So, if utilizing the school improvement team, tapping into the school improvement team, tapping into your PTAs and PTOs, becoming a registered volunteer. I would again want to, tell you that you do have to be a registered volunteer, because safety is one of the top priorities for our schools. So register to be a volunteer, and in order to get access to those classrooms is, again, getting engaged to know what the needs are in the schools and asking and seeking the opportunities. Guys, seek and ask for the opportunities as well. If they don't present themselves, ask for the opportunities. Show up so they'll know that you see that there's an opportunity to go into the classrooms to help the teachers, not just to go copy paper sometimes, but that is a great help, right? But there are times that the teacher can utilize you in such a way to be a reader to her school, to help with some redirections while they're focusing on small group settings. Getting those, it's very important to get those packets of information to you, the readers, the homework. So many different things. So thank you for that question, to be able to get inside to those classrooms, because you then get a real up close look at additional needs beyond the needs that are ever presented there. So thank you again for that question. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That we need to consider, and that is the leadership part in really making sure that people are welcome in order to get in. So I would say that it is leadership, it is accountability, it's mindset and a belief system that all kids can learn and really work with them, because I think the department and the leadership there want to do things.
Yes.
But we've got to have our leaders. It starts with leadership.
Yes.
Everything rises and falls in leadership. Yes. So that's one piece that I wanted to add.
Thank you so much. And I want to just reiterate that I don't work at Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools in the capacity of family and community engagement, but I couldn't agree with you more. We have my word, and I said I would get a shirt, a different color shirt that had this word on it, and I'd wear it every day, and it's intentional. We have to be intentional about opening up and making our parents and people feel welcome. We have to be intentional about letting them know and feel their value and that they truly are stakeholders. We create the obstacles and the barriers by attitude, demeanor, actions, by disallowing and not making them feel like that they're welcome. So we can preach this word engagement all day and talk about how we want to engage you, but in fact, we disengage them by our actions and the way that we do things. And we can only change that through leadership within CMS. So thank you so much. And that's it. My time is up, guys, but you can catch me over there.
Come on, give her another round of applause. Ms. Connie Cabbs, great information. Great information. Remember, write down your questions. We're going to have a Q&A with all of our presenters a little bit later in the day. We're doing so well this morning. Those of you who are online, please text us your questions, or you can go to the chat section and send us a chat about what you're thinking, what you're hearing. We've heard from at least 20 people this morning already with comments, so keep those comments coming. At this time, what we're going to do is take just a short break, because I understand you love Krispy Kreme donuts and coffee. And some of you have been here way early. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then please come straight back. And I would love to have a conversation with a couple of people who are willing to talk about what you've heard so far. so that we can keep the online streaming going with our online participants. So come see me in the back if you'd like to be interviewed.
Did we? Oh, nice.
Hey, how you doing? Want to be interviewed?
That's good. Good stuff. I love to always connect with their schools there and just try to get them, the information we need into the schools to make things happen for them. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Want to be interviewed? All right, so hang on. You want me to get in first?
Yeah. Hi, ladies. How are y'all doing? Good, good.
We know about this when they tell you.
Hi, how are you guys doing? Yes.
Okay, so are you connected with CMS now?
So I am working as a family advocate over at Stony Creek for them. For right now, we're hoping maybe till the end, around December or whatever.
Okay, folks, we have with us
Not with the volunteering department.
Beverly Davis,
But tell me what you need because
former
what I
CMS parent.
say
Is that correct?
Equity committee for CMS. And so I lift all things up through that equity committee.
Awesome. So talk to us about your experience with parental engagement in CMS.
It has been tremendously important to me. I actually have two that have graduated from CMS, and my daughter is a senior at North Carolina Central University, and my son is also a junior. But what was important while they were in CMS was engagement. I was one of the very active parents, and feeling as though I could be involved in having the attitude of the teacher, making me feel welcome in the classroom was extremely important to me as well. And then just being intentional, keeping me informed and putting those plans in place to stay on top of things. So I appreciated hearing that today.
Email if nothing else.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Let me ask you one other question. Is there a defining moment in your life as a parent when you had to lean in with what was going on with your students that you feel like really made a difference?
No, because I am on,
Definitely when my daughter felt like her teachers didn't really care that much, I called a meeting, and every one of her teachers at North Mecklenburg High School showed up in a conference room for that one student. And I was in tears. So that was one of those defining moments. And then, of course, with my son, he acted out, had some life issues going on. And all of his teachers were very engaged and kept me informed. And we put a plan in place for him to manage his anger. So we're both doing great now. So thank you, CMS.
Amen. Thank you so very much. I'm looking around. I saw a commissioner here. I see Commissioner Altman. Commissioner Altman, would you please come and talk with us?
And so to me, that's an example of the disengagement.
Commissioner Altman is very involved in our community. She's doing exceptional work on behalf of families. And I just want you to talk to us about why you're here today when you could be anywhere else.
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. It's an honor to be here. I was here last year and I was moved and enlightened. And I feel like what I learned last year helped to make me a better advocate for children in Mecklenburg County, because we do have hair on fire, gaps in educational attainment that we can't be complacent about, and we can't waste a day. And I feel like the advocacy of this organization has been so important in sharpening the focus of the community and of leadership to move as quickly as we can to identify our strategies and our tactics to close those gaps. So I'm here to continue to learn so that I can support the best way I can on the county commission.
Information in here.
What advice or encouragement would you give to parents out there?
Let me just write it in there.
I would say that your voice is so impactful. You know, at the county commission, we only have a handful of people show up to speak at our meetings, and parents who show up and tell us what's on their minds and their experiences have tremendous impact on our thinking and our deliberations and the choices we make. You are so powerful. You just need to raise up your voice. And this organization can help you strategize on how to do that in a way that's really effective and won't take up so much time. You can be impactful even with everything else and all your other responsibilities. You absolutely can do it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for everything.
Right.
So now, are you familiar with the bill? What is it, 387?
Yeah.
The initiative.
All right.
Yes,
We're going to
ma'am.
get started in 2 minutes. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for staying with us. In 2 minutes, the next speaker will come up.
Yes, I am. Yes, hi. I think that, you know, that's again something else that I think that we need to look closer at. I can't speak to how well or not that it's working because I'm not quick to jump in and say, oh, something's not working until I actually have sought out every aspect of what it's doing, how it's doing, and where it's happening at. And I haven't had the opportunity to do that, so I've only heard talk. The talk is in the between. It's not, I wouldn't say that.
Oh, no, those are not regular glasses. I thought someone dropped them. I don't know who they belong to.
I got you set up with Channel 9 to review it on the interview. So once we get them back in the room, I need you out here.
Okay. Thank you for coming back in. We're going to get started in just 30 seconds. We got a 30-second countdown. Thank you so very much for being here today again. Thank you so very much. We'll be starting in about 10 seconds here. Thank you so very much. Attorney Porter, thank you for waving the people to come on back in. Yes, we have a spot up front here for Pastor Robinson. Come on up. Right here on the front row. So we're going to continue with our presentations. We've been talking about knowing, understanding, and utilizing CMS leadership for student success. student academic success in school so that when they graduate, they will be college or career ready. You've heard from Ms. Cabbs, gave an outstanding presentation about how to connect, how to be engaged at the school level. Now, a gentleman is coming who says what he means and means what he says. In my estimation, has been the educator in my experience who's had the most integrity. If he tells he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And he expects the same thing from everybody around him. I had the pleasure of working with him when he was a deputy superintendent here in CMS. I watched his work as a superintendent of CMS. And at the time when he was superintendent, we were making tremendous progress academically, not with some kids, but with all kids. And so he had this saying, and he might get me for saying this because he's kind of like a father to me. He thinks he can tell me what to do. But he said, listen, I am not a show horse, but I'm a workhorse. And he said, I'm not all about the show, but I can build you a trophy case. And when he was superintendent of schools, he had a trophy case of honors that were coming to this district. So I'm kind of moved a little bit emotionally to bring up now my dear friend, our friend, Dr. James L. Peasley. Show him some love.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. It's been said that next in importance to freedom and justice is education, without which neither freedom nor justice can be maintained. Education, education, education. Yeah, I think it's on, it's not up. I just speak so. But they tell me I carry a big stick. It is about education. Education has shown me the way all my life, and I owe that to my grandmother. My grandmother was my North Star. When I was growing up, and even now, I can hear her voice. You can too. Whoever it was that you grew up with or around, you can still hear him talking to you. Let me add my thanks for your being here this morning. And certainly the intent is that we share information with you, get you engaged, and together we can make a difference. All of us running around like an organized stampede looking for answers. The answer is right in this room. The answer is in this room. It starts with you. And your child is looking to you, even though you don't realize your child is looking at you. Every move you make, that's the difference.
Can you guys hear Dr. Peasley in the back?
It's okay, I got their attention. You're straining it a little bit, that's okay. Okay. We good.
Okay.
Well,
you want to try the handheld?
You just think you owe.
You want to try this one?
Okay. I'll try it. I'm very accommodating. When you retire, you can be accommodating. been 2 years now, 2+ years really, that we've been involved in this pandemic. And we've all been kind of stressed out about it. But they say that this is going to be the year that we return to normal. That we return to normal. And it's impacted us all. It's been very stressful. Students, staff. We're wondering what this year will actually turn out to be. Well, let me say this. Even though the priority is that we return to normal, it begs the question, normal for who? I would say to you that we have a group of students, Black and brown students, it will not be normal for. It was not normal before the pandemic. When school opens up, it's going to be a real challenge, but it's one that we can overcome if we move together with the same objective in mind. And I'm talking academics now. I'm talking about student achievement. Okay? I'm talking about the hard grunt work. I'm talking about having to roll your sleeves up, put your work clothes on, and get after it. Okay? It's not going to be normal for kids that look like me because they're having to make up a lot of time and a lot of distance. While the pandemic was in place and still is in place now, but while it was really flourishing, if you will, we were not in school during those summer months, during the regular school year. Even though there may have been an opportunity there, a lot of us were not in school. Remote instruction, nothing like being in school, in a classroom, with an effective teacher. Nothing like it. But the expectation is that that's going to change this year. But I raise the question, who's it going to change for? Okay? Who's it going to change for? Achievement gap? Well, there was discussion about achievement gaps well before the pandemic. And I would say to you that it's no longer an achievement gap for Black and brown students. It's more like a canyon. I happen to have been born in Tucson, Arizona. Arizona, you know, is the Grand Canyon state. I attended college at Northern Arizona University, just a few miles from the Grand Canyon itself. I had the pleasure of visiting the Grand Canyon on a number of different occasions. And as you approach the Grand Canyon, it feels like you're getting ready to fall off the end of the earth. The Grand Canyon is so deep that at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, the weather is different than when you're at the rim. It can actually be raining at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, but sunny and bright when you're standing at the top. That's where we are now as it relates to achievement for Black and brown students. We're no longer in an achievement gap. We're in a canyon. But we can pull out of it. We must pull out of it. We don't have any choice but to pull out of it. When you go down into the Grand Canyon, you either walk a very narrow trail or you ride a mule or a donkey, but you don't make any mistakes. And I'm sure you understand why you would not want to make a mistake. We can do this. we don't have any choice. We can do this. But the answer lies within us. The school district these past few years have received billions of dollars from federal, state, and local sources. Resources that were needed. But the primary resource, the most significant resource, has to do with the human element that we bring to bear on the problem. That's you and I. You may or may not have students in the system, but whether you do or not, your living in this county will be impacted by those students who don't, well, I won't say have an equal opportunity, because that was the agenda, as far as I'm concerned, of the past, equal opportunity. The agenda today is equal results. Equal results. The opportunity's there, let's have the results. Return on investment. I give you something, you give me something back. Simple. That's an expectation. But the business model of education has to change. I'm kind of preachy right now, so let me get on with my presentation that I had really planned. But I think you understand where I'm coming from, at least. And I have a sneaking suspicion that you're coming from that same place, because you're looking for the same thing, actually. See, we all prosper if we all pull together. Not just a few, but everyone has to get behind this. You've had good presentations as it relates to what happens at the school level. Certainly that would make a tremendous difference. And we have to build towards that. My presentation this morning has to do with what happens at the community leadership level. Bear with me, I'm gonna try to work this. Here we are. Engaging, educating, and empowering parents for student success. There's one act that parents can do if you become skillful at it, and you become skillful at it by practice. And that is ask questions. Ask questions. That's what it's about. Education is the bedrock of all professions. I don't care what it is you are doing, what you anticipate doing, what you want your child to do. Bedrock of that is education. Education, education, education. We're not all going to be the same thing. We're not all going to achieve the same levels, but we can all live a comfortable life as a result of the education that we acquire along the way. And that becomes more and more significant in this day and age, for sure. There are things that go on today that I couldn't even imagine when I was coming along. I couldn't imagine. Dick Tracy talking on the phone, carrying around in his pocket. I was talking to my daughter, I asked her why she didn't have a landline. I'm getting upset thinking about her safety and everything. She talking about her cell phone and wasn't worried. things change. But it's about education. I'm not going to talk about the school level involvement, which I know is engagement, thanks to the two ladies. I'm going to pass on that. But I'm sure you have a good idea of what that concept is about. And you have a good idea of the need for it as well. What I want to talk about has to do with the area superintendents. And I think that's the correct term. It may not be, but I think you get the idea. Community or area superintendents. And from what I understand, there are 9 of them now. 9 of them. The idea is to bring that level of authority closer to the community itself, closer to you. These area superintendents are an extension of the superintendent himself, an extension of that particular office. Whether you know it or not, these people are the ones that supervise the building principals. Supervise building principals. We're talking about accountability. Okay? Now, this information is in the handout that you received. You've got names, you've got numbers. Hold on to the booklet. It becomes a resource from this point forward, balance of this year. Okay? Hold on to it. It's been said that the time to make friends is before you need them. President Johnson made that statement when he initiated the war on poverty back in the 60s. Think about that. The time to make friends is before you need them. That's what I'm suggesting to you this morning. The time to get to know who your area superintendent is before you need them, before there is a problem, before you have a concern. If you stop to think, you very seldom hear about these people. They have a low profile. That needs to change. These are people who are supposed to be running interference, making things happen. The school district has certain goals and objectives in place. These people are the ones who are accountable for the schools, in fact, focusing on those and making it happen. They're in a line position from the superintendent to the schools. The areas are organized, well, they're organized on a K-12 basis, made up of elementary, middle, and high schools, and some special schools sprinkled in as needed. Okay? You need to know who these people are. You need to know who they are. There are no excuses from this point forward because we've given you the information now. And you are now a resource for the people in your community who may need some assistance, who have questions or concerns. Okay? Before you wear the superintendent out or the board out, wear one of these people out. There are 42 low-performing schools at this point. My projection is that when the new information comes out, and I believe that'll be in September, there'll probably be more than 42. Those 42 schools are like canaries. Whatever happens to them is going to be the same that happens to this school district. You understand what I'm saying? 42 schools, low performing. And it's not just the last 2 years. They were low performing before that. Can they be turned around? Absolutely. Will it take more than just a little effort? Most certainly. It can't be a secondary thought. It must be a primary thought. When I say a primary thought, when I talk about staffing schools and so forth, priority attention. Priority attention. Because whatever happens to those schools, it's going to happen to the balance of this district. Let me cite an example for you what's happening. I live in South Shore. I travel Pineville, Matthews quite often, going back and forth. There are 3, 4 high schools along there. Providence High School being one of them. Then there are 2 or 3 private and parochial schools. Each of those private or parochial schools are adding on to their facilities. CMS is shrinking in size. Where are they going? Well, they don't build those classrooms and new buildings for nothing with those private and parochial schools. We got some work to do. The answer is here. The answer is here. The resources are in place when you talk about dollars and cents. But the real answer has to do with what we can bring to bear on the situation and consistently do so, with a primary focus having to do with student achievement. Student achievement. Student achievement. Each and every term, no matter what, student achievement. Again, we're talking about area superintendents now, whatever the correct term is. Let me cite some examples for you. Academic performance. Let me show you something that's interesting. You see what that says? It says equity in school performance and learning communities. Equity in school performance. It didn't say nothing about athletics. It says performance. Okay? That's what that group is pulled together for. But it's up to us to help them keep their eye on the ball, on what's important. There are a lot of things that are necessary in a school district of this size. It has a lot of moving parts to it. But all of those parts must be considered enablers as it relates to student achievement. Enablers. Academic performance of schools. The culture and the climate of the school. Culture, by definition, is what you do. Climate is how you feel about what you do. What's the culture of the school that your child attends? What's the culture? What people do. What people do. Are kids allowed to come to school in their pajamas? Hey, don't laugh. You do. Is that allowed? Is that permissible? Does that fit the proper culture of the school? Now, remember, teachers allowed to come in with the kids as opposed to being there before the kids and being ready to teach. Is that the culture of the school? All of those kinds of things set the climate of the school. Simple things, but significant. Staffing issues. Some real challenges there, especially now. 42 low-performing schools. What's the staffing situation in those schools today? School starts Monday. Are they 100% staffed with effective teachers? I can tell you this, there are some schools in this district that are 100% staffed. The thing is, as a parent, do you know if your school is fully staffed or not? Are these 42 schools fully staffed or not? 98%? Well, if it were 98%, what about the other 2%? If I were getting ready to fly to LA tomorrow morning, and they told me that 98% of Delta's flights make it, 2% fall out of the sky. No way. Appearance, simple, straightforward. The appearance of a school, inside and out, should be better than the neighborhood that it sits in. No excuses. No excuses whatsoever. Very simple. Accountability is what we're talking about. Simple accountability, straightforward. Who is responsible for what, where? Start in. Questions, 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 questions. That's all you need to learn to do. Ask questions. Now, let me say this and I'll sit down. It's important in forming those friendships that I made reference to, that you do your homework before you go in to sit down with these people. Okay? It's important that you do your homework. Know what it is, or know why it is you're going in to meet with this individual. And the other part of that is always be respectful. Always be respectful. And keep in mind also that respect is a two-way street. Two-way street. Okay? I thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Pushley, for sharing that wisdom with us. This guy knows exactly what he's talking about. And if you will meditate on what he said and the serious nature of which he talks about education, I promise you it will bring forth good fruit for students who are failing now in CMS. Let me say this before we continue. I am convinced that there are flames of brilliance throughout CMS. We have a lot of great teachers. We have a lot of great folks who are doing a lot of great things, and we need to support them. And we need to liberate, teachers who have bad principles, and bad principles need to be dealt with by the learning area superintendents. Everybody needs to be held accountable. But here's the thing that I want you to understand is why I'm so serious about it, is because we have thousands of kids every year graduate from CMS, and they're not college and they're not career ready. And the pressure is not going to come off of the superintendent, whoever the superintendent is, or the school board, or anybody else connected to CMS, until we see some different results. But that does not mean we don't love teachers. That does not mean that we don't love principals. In fact, I'd love to liberate the good teachers who are fighting out there who need greater support, and liberate principals who need greater support. So I know this sounds like, we're beating up sometimes on CMS, but really it's not. And just understand, no one rises to low expectations. And when you only expect for about a third of our kids to be college and career ready, we're never going to celebrate that. That's not acceptable. You're saying to our kids and people who look like me that we don't believe you can achieve at high levels simply because you have some challenges in your life. That day is over and gone. We're here to advocate and say that we believe no matter what the challenges are, that our kids, black and brown, can do well in school and go to college or be ready to go to a career. We're not satisfied, but there's a 40% or 40-point gap between African Americans and white students' performances. That's not acceptable. The number is all the way down to about 16% of our kids being college and career ready when we look at third grade reading performance. So, yes, somebody needs to sound the alarm. Somebody needs to equip parents and make parents aware that this is not acceptable. And parents, we believe that we can work with you to change these results. So we're not apologetic about our position, and we never will be, because we know from experience that all of our kids can achieve at high levels. And now coming up is a guy who's seen it done before time and time again, a guy who's been a part of recruiting superintendents and working with boards who have made it happen, not in Michigan or somewhere else, but right here in this community. And he is a dear friend, and nobody fights like this guy. I know he's fighting all the time. I think he goes to bed fighting. He wakes up fighting, but he's fighting for the right cause. He's fighting so that all kids can achieve at high levels. And I have deep respect for him. So let's show him some love. Our longstanding board chairman, Mr. Arthur Griffin. You guys pay attention now. You're going to learn something, I promise you.
I don't know. Let me see. Does this thing work? Can you hear me? All right. Good morning. Oh, let's see if we can work this thing. My name's Arthur Griffin, and I've learned a lot. I hope you've learned a lot this morning. Annette and Connie and Dr. Pusley and Dennis and all the presenters. I mean, I've actually learned a lot. And this engagement piece really means more to me now, Annette, rather than involvement, engagement. But that goes for all of us, every one of us, parents, citizens, non-parents. My name's Arthur Griffin again, and I'll get off track when you start talking about education because it's so important to me. So I'll try to stay on track and use these slides we put together the other night. But speaking to Brian over here just a moment ago and listening to the other presenters, I thought about my own experience, Dr. Pusley. Growing up here in Charlotte, the 1950 census came out. And of course, I'm going to find Arthur Griffin Jr. on here. And I found Arthur Griffin Jr. I knew my mom worked as a domestic worker cleaning up white folks' houses here in Charlotte. I knew that. But to see it in writing on a census form, housemaid, was really reflective to see it in writing. To see also in writing that my father had zero education, because I knew he didn't drop out of school. He never attended school. But to see it in writing, zero education on a census form was reflective. And so when you talk about the village and you talk about education, by the grace of God, if it wasn't for education and educators and people in this community called Charlotte, North Carolina, I would not have had the experiences that I've had so far in this lifetime. I worked at Legal Aid for a number of years, and starting in about 1975, I got involved with the schools, but representing students who were being suspended and excluded. Our office had won a case in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal on due process rights, and during the early years of school desegregation, a number of challenges. And during that course of events, I got more and more engaged with the teaching and learning process or education, because a lot of the kids I was representing in families, the families started asking me, Mr. Griffin, you know, Robert's going to be graduating. He's back in school now, but where's he going to go? Because Robert can't read. Robert can't do math very well. And I had no clue what the heck I was talking about or doing as it relates to education, but I said, let me find out what's going on. So from about 1975 to 1985, I engaged the teaching and learning process. I asked questions, I talked to people, and my dear friend Liv Randolph would say, Arthur, you don't know anything about education. And she was true, I did not know anything about education. But every book, every meeting, every conference, every place I could go, I tried to find out, how could we do better by our children, particularly those who looked like me, that was graduating from the public schools. And I made a commitment that I broke. And I said I'd never be on the school board. That was from 1975 to 1985. I'd never be a politician on the school board. And come 1985, I got on the Board of Education, Rhonda. Because you got to be in it to engage. You got to be in it to ask those questions and make a difference. And in terms of being polite, I think I was very polite, Dr. Pugh, at 7 o'clock every morning when I coming out the building. Stop laughing. I was very polite, asking Dr. Smith and Dr. Pewsley, are they reading yet? Okay. Are they reading yet? Reading is a gateway to life. It's a gateway to living. And that was the only thing I'd always ask the superintendent. Are they reading yet? I want to talk to you just a little bit about those 3 pillars that Dennis talked about: knowing, understanding, and utilizing the Board of Education. First, you have to know your board members. I think that's critically important. You can't ask questions. You don't know who to reach out to. So I tried to put this together. It's a map. Yeah, Rhonda, you up there. All right. Okay. But for parents, you need to know who represents you. And this little piece reflects the 9 members of the Board of Education and how we are organized today to represent you. There are 6 at-large school board members. 3 at-large school board members and 6 districts. And members are elected today from their respective districts, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. but they serve all the children of Mecklenburg County. Let me explain that again to you. Although you're elected from a particular district, you serve all children and families of Mecklenburg County. Prior to 1995, all of the school board members were elected at large. So I've always been elected at large from the school board, but the representation is that each individual district member represents all the students. They certainly have a relationship with their respective districts, and I couldn't begin to tell you, because the print's so small, some of the names of some of the schools. But as you've heard so far about engagement, certainly, after you've talked to the folk that Dr. Pewsley talked about at staff level, then reach out. But do this earlier. Each person in here today should know who the district representative is and the at-large representative. And would hopefully, if you haven't already, the numbers are up here and you'll see that again in terms of how to reach those district representatives. Reach out and introduce yourself. We'll talk a little bit later about the engagement and how to reach out to them, but make sure that you get their numbers and email addresses. This group of 9 represents what I call the community's education value. Where school boards come from. Way back in the day, there were school committees. The General Assembly started to write some laws that say, okay, we want officials now to represent the community's values for local school districts. There probably were 80, little history, there are probably about 80 different school districts in Mecklenburg County. Okay. Then now we're only down to 1. But even when they weren't that formalized, they were like Lynn Mill, Clear Creek. Those were communities in Mecklenburg County as we developed. And each little community had their own schools, and they had citizens represented called school committees. But as we progressed over the years, we formalized that into what's called school boards. The statute basically is 115C36. But school boards represent your education values collectively. There are 2 customers. One is the taxpayer and one is the student. But they represent the community's education values. As Dr. Pewsley said earlier, is your value that only 1/3 of your students of color is college ready or career ready? Is that a community value? They represent that community value. They represent you as individual taxpayers. And they are charged with, by statute, is to provide each child the opportunity to receive a sound basic education. And if you read up on what a sound basic education entails, talk specifically about being college ready or career ready. What are school boards? How do they do this? They create and adopt local policies. What are policies? In short, policies do one of 2 things. They encourage behavior, or they discourage behavior. One example that's in your booklet is policy IKE. It talks about providing services for students that are not performing up to date. It's something called MTSS. In the old days, it used to be called a personal education plan. But school board members create and adopt local policies to guide the entire local school district in your community. They hire the superintendent, and according to statute, that's the only person that they hire. However, they have the option to hire others that report directly to the Board of Education. In Mecklenburg County decided to hire a general counsel and a compliance ethics officer, if I have that correctly. When I served on the school board, we did not have a general counsel until sometime in the 90s. Early on, we contracted out with a law firm to handle some of our work. But subsequently, we did, in fact, bring in-house and have our own general counsel. They have to adopt an annual budget. We hear a lot about money. Sort of like if you can break it up into 3 parts, about 60% or so of the school district's budget comes from the state of North Carolina. About 30% will come from your local government, and about 10% comes from the federal government. There are other sources in terms of grants that the district may write to receive, but just sort of as a rule of thumb, about 60, about 30, about 10. Now, don't hold me to it. It could be like 61, could be 59, but it's round figures. And that budget comes in different ways. The state passes its budget supposedly by 1 July. Sometimes it's August the 1st, sometimes whenever they get around to it. But the funds come out eventually, about 60%. The county, of course, passes its budget by 1 July. And you probably read a lot in the newspaper about the county's discussion with the Board of Education about the budgets, but it's still there. I think the county is somewhere around $578 or $579 million in terms of operating funds and additional dollars for debt service, paying for the new schools and capital. They're also responsible for pupil assignment, believe it or not. They determine where the attendance boundaries are for each of the schools and the subsequent policies and regulations that say this is where you will go to school. This is your home school. And they have other policies in terms of magnets, in terms of processes. But pupil assignment generally is solely in the domain of your local Board of Education. They also sit as a quasi-judicial body. What do you mean by that? They actually serve in a legal sense when employees, certified employees particularly, have an appeal, meaning if there's some dispute or dismissal, et cetera, there's a set specific process by which the board has to allow due process before some final determination is made. So it's quite a bit that's on the Board of Education's plate, but it's there by design, and it's there that will work and can work very successfully. Where do they do all this magic? They do this magic at a place called City Hall. If you haven't visited the school board or where they do this magic, it's generally at 600 East 4th Street, what we call City Hall. The city council's there, county commission's there, and the school board's there. And they normally meet formally on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, but they can determine, for whatever reason, to have different meetings at different times. But those are the normal business meetings of the Board of Education right now. How do they do this magic when they go down to the Board of Education? There are 4 big buckets. Now, my buckets may be a little different than the traditional buckets, but I look at the entire school operation in 4 big buckets, everything coming out of those buckets. Human resources, meaning the types and number of staff that you'd have, the hiring process. Financial operations looks at the financial operations of the district in terms of budgets and whether or not monies will go for this activity or another activity. Facility operations and curriculum and instruction. Governance is around management oversight, meaning the folk that they hire, meaning the superintendent and staff, and all the folk that Dr. Pewley showed you on his slides in terms of the learning community superintendents, will make reports. The Board of Education and the quality of the functions is based on the Board of Education asking the right questions in regards to the various staff operations. Human resources, for example, we talked about the staffing of schools and the opening of schools. One oversight meeting will probably be just simply getting reports from the superintendent. What schools are fully staffed? What schools are not fully staffed? What about the qualifications of those folks at those various schools? What about our buses? What about the maintenance shops? What about our custodians? You know, those types of questions would come up through an oversight committee meeting by the Board of Education. Likewise, in terms of curriculum and instruction, I think what they call now is progress monitoring, where they would ask questions of the administrative staff, you know, what is happening regarding reading or math or the academic goals. The committees, if I have this correctly, there are several standing committees of the Board of Education, and they meet on a regular basis to drill down in specific areas. The Audit Committee or the Calendar Committee, you're probably familiar with the Calendar Committee, they determine, you know, when school opens, the holidays, the teacher work days, et cetera. Facilities and operations, they will get reports on a regular basis about schools, school conditions, when new schools will be open, what are our plans in terms of capital needs as we come back to the public. The Board of Education will come back to the public at some point in the future and ask for a bond referendum. And I think right now they're working on a bond referendum for 2023, but that's a process by which the schools will go through looking at what the needs are and having meetings. And all of their meetings are open to the public. You come back to the original questions about public engagement or parent engagement, parental engagement. Parents absolutely can participate in any and all of these meetings by attending the meetings and reaching out to those 9 individuals on that first slide. You know, what's on the agenda? How does it affect me? How does it affect our community? And sharing that information as they go through these various steps through the board standing committee. This is the Board of Education and the interim superintendent. That's Hugh Haddabaugh. This is how I want you to think about engaging that group. Introduce yourself early on. Use that phone and email address and reach out to all of your board members. Not just the ones that represent you, but all of your board members. Just let them know that you are a citizen. Let them know that you are a parent. Share with them who you are, who your children are, what your goals and aspirations. Remember one of the things I said originally about the Board of Education? They represent your collective education values. If they never hear from you, they don't know what your education values are in order to represent you. They can't do their job if they don't know you and what you feel and what you'd like to see happen in your particular school. Attend school board meetings. I know they can be very dry sometimes, okay? And kind of, you know, mechanical. But as a school board member, I'll give you an example. Usually, I don't know, 10 people will show up at a school board meeting on a normal basis. When 50 people show up at a school board meeting, watch the school board members. Who are they coming? Why are they here? Do you know who they are? Is there something going on that we need to know about? You don't realize the power that you have by simply engaging your school board member, by attending a school board meeting. It's so important. And I cannot say this enough. Those that engage or come to school board meetings, you've heard the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Go to school board meetings. Speak at school board meetings. Okay? Speak at school board meetings. They want to hear from you. One of the considerations for some of the decisions that are being made are, well, we heard from this individual, and this individual represents the entire community. No. They've heard from one person out of 100,000 in their district. They need to hear from you in person, by email. Ask questions. Ask questions. I didn't know what I was doing when I got on the school board. Okay? They are parents. Most of the school board members are parents of children in the public schools, or have been parents of children in the public school system, just like you. So don't be afraid to ask questions of your board members. We even had an opportunity to try some things out back in the old days. I see Colleen is smiling at me back there. We would have school board meetings in the community. We would literally say, okay, let's get out of the ivory tower, which is on 2nd Street, and say, let's go have a school board meeting in this district. We'll have a school board meeting in this district, so that we were closer to the citizens that were voting on us and that we represented. Because a lot of citizens could not get down to the school board on 2nd Street where we resided at the moment. Invite your school board members to your community or school. How many parents in it? Metro parent. My Metro parent over there. Okay? Invite school board members to your school. Invite school board members to your community. You all live in a community. You all live in a neighborhood somewhere. Invite your school board member to your community rec center, to your church that serves your community geographically, to your homes. Believe it or not, invite them to your home and ask your other neighbors to come sit with you as you talk with your school board member. All of those things are strategies and steps for engagement. Research is at the end, should be at the beginning, but research your issues so that you know what changes that you'd like to see in your school. School improvement plans, something was mentioned earlier. Every school has a school improvement plan. The statute, the law, requires that a certain number of parents be on every school improvement team. They have to pay attention to what your needs and what your students' needs are. And beyond that, the statute requires the school board to approve every school improvement plan. So with respect to engaging, you have a number of levels in which to engage the school board. You can engage school board members at school board meetings. You can engage school board members individually, one-on-one. You can engage them through the teaching and learning process, through the school improvement plan. Because the school improvement plan is where you identify those areas of operation that need improvement. One of the school improvement teams that I served on, one of the questions came back was school maintenance. Somebody said school maintenance was having a problem. Think for a moment about school maintenance, just the cleanliness of the building, the repair of items that are not working. And I suggest you put school maintenance in your school improvement plan. And they indicated, well, you can't do that. The manual gives school maintenance as an example in the state handbook on how to implement school improvement plans. So you can put maintenance in the school improvement plan. And that's what this system, it's an open system, but it's a closed system if only one party is participating. You have to participate to make the system work the way that it is designed. If you follow those steps in terms of introducing yourselves, going to school board meetings, understanding and having a relationship with the individual school board members, I can assure you and guarantee you that their first responsibility of reflecting and representing the community's education values will have your input, and you'll see your efforts, your concerns in their actions and in the work, not only in your particular schools, but other schools that are similarly situated. I put this up too. These are the email addresses, the phone numbers of school board members. And what I want you to do, there's no way I can follow up, but I'm going to ask you, this is the honor system. I want you to reach out to your school board member today, tomorrow, Monday, or Tuesday, and introduce yourselves. For those of you in here, there's no excuse. Here's your phone numbers, here's your email address. Reach out to your school board member and just simply introduce yourself if you don't have a particular issue, but make that first step in that journey of improving schools for all of our students here in Mecklenburg County. And with that, I'll just stop and see if there are any questions of anyone about school board actions. Rhonda.
My usual response is, I want to help you, but can you send it in an email? Because I can't write notes while I'm driving up the interstate. So don't get me started on tolls. So just know that. I think most of us, it's easier if you will email us. Then we have a record of it.
Hey.
I'm Rhonda G. Lennon was my name. I got married. Rhonda got Lennon or G. They all work in the system.
This information comes off of CMS's website, all right? So that's, so Rhonda, you make them correct that number. But anyway, that's what I mean about engagement. You'll know what's working, what's not working, and then you can take action to make sure that in fact occurs. Any other questions about school board? Pat? Okay. So they have 2 locations now. All right. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Griffin. I don't know about you, but I learned a lot during all of those presentations. If you learned something today, just one thing today, just raise your hand. If you learned just one thing today, that is incredible. So you've heard about the importance of parental engagement. You've learned about how to engage at the school level, how to engage at the learning community level, how to engage at the top level with the superintendent and the school board. Now, we want to talk about how do we mobilize this parent engagement for success in CMS. I heard my elders say growing up that my people perish because of a lack of knowledge. And I would hear people say all the time, if you want to keep it away from my community, just put it in a book. And that should not be the case. So we're taking the time to be what we're about as an organization. We want to engage, educate, and empower our parents for success in CMS. And it takes time to slow down and stop listening to the drums and the beats and the business of life to equip ourselves so that we can be successful with our children. So thank you for being patient. Thank you for taking in this information. So now what do we do with it? So we have 2 pastors coming up who's going to tell us how to mobilize our parents for success in CMS. And we have a 2-member team coming up. Dr. Witherspoon, would you please come? He's the pastor of Steel Creek AME Zion Church, and Pastor Amani Fisher from Life International Church. Let's show them some love.
Good afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well and you've enjoyed all of the presentations that we've received so far. Myself and Dr. Witherspoon want to just engage you for learning on how you can mobilize as parents for CMS, to move CMS forward. Can I see the hands of all of the parents in the room? I hope every hand goes up because as Dr. Leek said before, we're all parents. We're all parents. Again, my name is Amani Fisher and I have worked with children for over 30 years. I was a repeat juvenile offender counselor when I lived in Atlanta. I worked also as an independent living consultant with a provider with 14 and 15-year-old foster care children. And then I worked as a director of student development at a number of churches. And actually that's what brought me here to the Huntersville, Charlotte area. I inherited 3,500 students at one time. You try becoming a parent of 3,500 students at one day. And it's a joy, but it's a lot of work. And that led me to my introduction to CMS, because one of the most important things that I had to do as that director of student development was engage all of the children, all of the parents, and their environments and where they lived and hung out from ages from grades K through 12. We called it from the womb to the dorm room. And that's where I got my introduction with CMS. But also me being a parent of 3 young men that have matriculated through CMS equips me for what I am going to share with you today, because 2 of those young men have already graduated from CMS. One attends Virginia Tech University, and one just graduated, and he's here today. I guess he's out there eating a donut. But there you go. He just recently graduated from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And so we are very proud of him. And so hopefully we'll be able to knock this thing out in 20 minutes. I guess if we cut it in half, we got 10, huh? That's hard for a preacher. But we're going to make this thing happen. Dr. Witherspoon?
Good afternoon, everyone. Reverend Dr. Monty Witherspoon. I'm a native of Charlotte, born and raised. Listen to folks talk about now that I'm getting older, I'm just coming into those 40s. I listen to those who have been here, like Arthur and them, talk about the old hospitals. I was born in Old Memorial Hospital, which is now Atrium, but raised in Southwest Charlotte and graduate of Olympic High School 1998. Right. And so I'm glad to be here and share this information with you.
All right, so one thing that we want to do is we want to talk about mobilizing, you as parents mobilizing. And so you've received a lot of information, but what I need your help in this presentation, and I need you to speak very loud and engage me. I am a pastor, yes I am, but I've done so many other things, but I like working with children, and when we're speaking with children, we like to get the response back. So I need you to help me out. I'm gonna ask you a question, are you with me? And you're gonna say, count me in, okay? So we're gonna try that real quick, and I need you to say it loud. I know this room over here, this side over here, we've been speaking a lot to this side, but I'm engaging this side over here, okay? So I'm gonna say, are you with me? And you're gonna say, count me in. Are you with me? Count me in. Come on, you can do better than that. Are you with me? Count me in. Come on, one more time. Are you with me? Count me in. All right. So there's an adage, an old African adage that says it takes a village to raise a child. But I want to do a remix on that. It takes a village to properly educate a child. And that's us. We are the village. You got to understand this. Stakeholders such as parents, teachers, educators, churches, community organizations, businesses, civic leaders must come together to encourage learning and educational excellence. And that's why you're here today. Because we cannot do it separate and we cannot do it divided, but together, what we can do is properly educate a child. And that's why I need you to be counted in. It takes an entire community of people to provide for and interact positively with children and their teachers. It takes all of us. You've heard about community engagement. You've heard about parent engagement, not involvement, but engagement. Guess what? It takes you, the community, to provide for and interact positively with children and their teachers. So what? So that our children are able to experience as well as grow in a safe, healthy, and encouraging environment. We got to understand this. We politicize the education system. I don't care if you vote donkey. I don't care if you vote elephant. I don't care if you're somewhere in the middle. All of us want what? We want a safe, healthy, and encouraging environment for our children. We should not have to worry about the environments we send them to every day. So guess what we have to do? As a village, we have to come together to properly educate the children. And an environment has to be built on high expectations. If you allow CMS to lower their expectations for your child, that's on you. We cannot allow anybody to lower the expectations for our children. When my children come home, we only accept A's and B's in our house. We don't frown on C's, but we only accept A's and B's. They come and say, well, C- is passing. I don't care. In this house, we only accept A's and B's. Why? Because my expectation is high. And guess what they do? They come to that level of expectation. If you get them to that level and that's your expectation, they will perform at that level. So can I count on you? All right. Now, these are benefits of parental involvement. Did you know that the parents are the #1 educators in life for your child? You're the #1 educator. Don't let anybody tell you that they have more for your child than you have for your child. That's why school starts when they're 4 and 5 years old, because life knows that from those formative years, from when they're born to 5, those are foundational years. And that is when you, as a #1 educator, can educate your child that when they go into a school system, they'll know how to operate, they'll know how to act, they'll know how to read, and they'll know how to engage. Parents have a strong influence on their child. They have a direct influence that is stronger than teachers, friends, and all forms of media. Our children are connected to their phones. They're connected to their devices. But you got to understand, you are the #1 educator. And it's not what you tell them, but it's what you exemplify before them. You have to exemplify someone who cares about education. Both of my parents were educators. And in my house, education was very high. It was very valuable. And guess what? It happened through all of my brothers and sisters. We had that same high value on education. Your positive attitude and support towards your children's education is very considerable. If you do not engage in the school system, parent, then your child is not going to engage in the school system. If you show up to the school system, if you show the importance and the value in that school system, then guess what? Then that child knows you're sending a signal to your child that this is important to this family. You cannot allow, I've worked with parents. We ran a camp in the West Charlotte area. Thankful to Commissioner Leak and so many other leaders who funded it. But one thing we understood is if school was important to the parents, then it was important to the child. If school was not important to the parents, it was not important to the child. So you have to exemplify that before them. And understand this, your positive attitude as a parent can inspire and empower the child, your child, to develop good learning habits and results of academic success. It's you. You have to have a positive attitude towards their education. We all do, as a community, as a village. So we can tear down our system or we can build it up by showing up. We all have to make a difference. So lastly, I want to share this. There's results for strong parental involvement. Those results are just a few. Increased student achievement. When you are involved in the school, then guess what? Your students' achievement goes up. It will lead to reduced absenteeism. Let me tell you something. My wife, who's here with us today, and we always went to the school and we always introduced ourselves to some very important people. The front office attendant, assistant principal, the principal, SRO, and all supporting staff who are all educators. Why? Because we wanted a call at the house if our sons did not show up at school, and we sent them. And they dare not try it because we said we had eyes everywhere. It reduced absenteeism because, like Dr. Peterson said, we made friends before we needed the friends. And they always engaged. And when something was going on at home, we got a call. Why? Because we showed up and we engaged those who were educating our children. Understand this, your parental involvement provokes better behavior for your children. They promote better behavior. If your child is fearful that you're gonna come up to school when something go down, they gonna act right, okay? That's how it goes. But then check this last point out. It strengthens, as Annette had in her slides, the tripod of education. What is the tripod of education? It's so very, very important. It's the student, parent, and educator. That's the tripod. Educator, teacher. Now understand this, the most important peg in that tripod is the student. But you try standing that student up without the parent and the educator, it doesn't happen. It's a tripod. You try standing that student up without a parent, where there's just a student and an educator, it doesn't stand. It's a tripod. It needs all three legs. All three legs are important. You as a parent have to get with the student and their teacher and stand with them that they can stand and be educated and close that achievement gap. And so it's very important that you show up and engage to mobilize CMS forward.
Thank you. Pastor Monty talked about high expectations for students, but I think we also have to have high expectations of ourselves and high expectations of parents. Since we're talking about Black students in particular, I want to talk about Black parents, in particular Black mothers. And I think that a lot of times they're stigmatized in our community. Oh, they don't want to be involved. There's a whole litany of reasons that come out. I'm a product of a single parent home. I'm not from a broken home. I'm from a single parent home that was filled with love and attention and guidance. My mother worked very hard. Later, she went to, when I got to high school, I didn't see my mom till about 9:30 at night because she had returned to go to college to finish up her college degree when I got into high school. I fell third in 7th grade. Wasn't anything on her part. My mother was engaged, not necessarily involved because she didn't have the time, but she was engaged. I ended up graduating on time despite failing third in 7th grade. Why? Not because she was involved, but because she was engaged in my life. And I owe everything to my mother.
Yeah.
And what I'm simply trying to say is we put a lot of weight on Black women in our culture and on our mothers. But they are the most resilient people that we have on the face of the earth. And that's my opinion. I don't know about yours. And I owe everything, I know everything to my mother. I stand here today as a 3rd and 7th grade failure. Not a failure, I failed 3rd and 7th grade. But I heard a preacher say on the show, you never fail until you decide to stay down. And I stand here with an earned doctorate because of my mother. So I'm simply trying to say we have to destigmatize this idea and these notions, and we got to reclaim our own narratives for ourselves that we don't want to be engaged, that we're late. No, none of that. Mothers work hard. Imagine having a job that you can't get off of to go down to see about your child, worrying about getting fired. So I said that to say, again, we just have to destigmatize these things. I want to just thank our parents for all that they do, especially our mothers. How do I do this thing? Right here? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that?
No.
Nope. I should have been here for the session, right? Okay. All right. How can I as a parent become a better stakeholder within CMS? Local school involvement versus district-wide involvement. A lot of these things we've already been over. I'm just going to cut across the field, if you will. Increase visibility in your child's school, become a watchful eye and assess best practices within the walls of your school and advocate for valuable solutions. I'll tell you one thing I'm never going to do again. I'm never going to be behind Dr. Pewsley and Arthur Griffin ever again. Never again. But Mr. Griffin talked a little bit about the school improvement plans. I really just wanted to highlight that out of this list of things, and PTA, PTOs, because I think it's so important. He touched on it, but I just want to give us just a little more information on exactly what it is. My information is coming from North Carolina School Improvement Planning Implementation Guide. School improvement planning provides a mechanism for identifying needs and establishing a common approach to meeting those needs at the school level. Effective school improvement planning contributes to overall school performance by, 1, establishing an understanding of the big picture of a school's current state, including student achievement, talk about that, school environment, teacher community, parent community, and administrative issues. Number 2, reaching a consensus across the school community on which needs present the highest priorities for action based upon the potential to improve overall student and school performance. And number 3, identifying for implementation objectives and tasks, including specific targets, effective practices, and milestones required to address the school's priorities. So if you want to know what the priorities are at your local school, you can access your school's school improvement plan, which is by law made public and on the website. It's a little deeper, it's buried down a little deeper now than what it was because you have to go to another website. But the school improvement team consists of the principal of the school, representatives of assistant principals, representatives of instructional personnel, representatives of instructional support personnel, representatives of teacher assistants assigned to the building, and representatives of parents and children enrolled in the school. And again, this is public information. Your school's improvement plan is public information, and the names of all of the team members are listed as well. And again, as Brother Griffin said, that it must be approved by the Board of Education. So it's so important to know that so you can know what the priorities are of your particular school.
Yeah. Okay, so on the local level, we got to understand that the only way to affect change is to be present and become the change from within. That's the only way we can affect it. We have to be present and become the change that we want to see. And so we looked up on the CMS website, and a lot of parents may not understand this or know this, but there is a mission. They have a department called Community Partnerships and Family Engagement. And we have to engage them because they desire community partnerships and family engagement. The mission of the Community Partnerships and Family Engagement Department is to work to foster active collaboration between families, community partners, and CMS to support the social, emotional, and educational development of all students. It's not enough to have this department, but we have to engage this department because this is what they want to do and this is what we desire for our children. And so we want you to look up, you have a packet here and in your books, you have a packet of this presentation, but also in your books, you can go to the CMS website and find out who's the director of that department and how to connect with that department because we want you to become an advocate in that department, okay? Now also, there's some district-wide community partnership initiatives. And there's a list of these, and I want to share these with you. Because you have the presentation, you'll be able to read through them. You have the Community Building Initiative. You have the Community Equity Committee, Community in Schools of Charlotte-Mecklenburg. You have Interfaith Advisory Council and the Race Matters for Juvenile Justice. All of these are committees that you can engage as parents because these committees help to move Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools forward. But check this. Remember when we said, count me in? It was a setup. Because what we want to do here with the African American Faith Alliance for Educational Advancement is we want you to become an ambassador. We want you to become an ambassador in the schools and partner with us that you can take our concerns and we can come together as partners and we can come together as a community of parents that are not monuments, but are movements. We move forward in CMS so we can mobilize CMS forward. There's many times we point the finger at those who are leading CMS, and yes, we're supposed to do that, but there are more fingers pointing back at us than pointing at them. And we have to take accountability. We have to mobilize them and we have to show up so that they will be accountable to what we desire. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you for listening to our presentation today. Dr. Williams, do you have anything else?
Witherspoon, thank you. Thank you so much. This is
Witherspoon,
great.
I'm sorry.
This is the important work that we must continue beyond these four walls.
Definitely. So, are you with us? Oh, you can do better than that. Are you with us? Are you with us?
Count me in.
So do this. Do not just take this information and sit on it, but take this information and be an advocate to other parents that you know. Share it with them so that we all together can mobilize CMS forward. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you guys for coming, and we're going to skip along in the program here. At this time, we have a few door prizes that we would like to give away. I'm going to ask that my trusty assistant come on up. Hop along, Auburn. Take out your red tickets that you were given when you came in this morning. All right, first we have, hold on, Mr. Sneed. Can you come up here, young Mr. Sneed? Let me get Mr. Sneed up here. Give your mother your tickets. So if you win, you can get your prize. Young Mr. Sneed here is gonna help us out here. First, we have 2 tickets to Carowinds. Yeah, 2 beautiful tickets to Carowinds. Okay, young Mr. Sneed, pull out a ticket for you. How old are you?
I'm 9.
9. What school do you go to?
Eastover Elementary School.
Eastover Elementary. Okay. Thank you so much. Can you read those numbers on the end for me?
What does that say?
591106.
Hey. All right, young Mr. Sneed, pull out another one. We have 2 more tickets to Carowinds.
Five 59110.
Did y'all hear that? One time, repeat it.
591120.
Going once? Going twice? Oh, well, let's get another number. All right, here we go.
591145.
Hey, man.
And here you go.
Here we go. Guess who's going to Carowinds? We'll give it to your mom. We'll give it to your mom and come back. I was just putting the empty ones up here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's see, what do we have next? How about a gift card to Walmart?
Five 91115.
Woohoo, yeah, here we go. All right, now we have a gift card to Target. What we got, young man?
591122. 591122.
Once, twice. Oh, well. All right.
591141.
Here we go. Here we go. Done a great job, Mr. Sneed. Now we're going to have another Walmart gift certificate.
591129.
Say again.
591129.
Going once, going twice, gone. I can put that up there.
591116.
There you go. Next, we're going to have 2 movie tickets, 3 popcorn. All right.
591129. 21. 591121.
All right, all right. Okay, we have 2 more movie tickets and 2 popcorns to go with that. Can't go to the movies without popcorn, right?
591121. 1124.
Yeah. I just put it up there. Next, we have a gift card to Food Lion.
Take a gift card.
What we got, young man?
591144. 591144.
Once, one twice, gone.
591142.
Next, we have a shoe organizer. Oh, someone left it and said it was a prize. Okay. Okay. What about the box of crackers? I guess those are Dr. Leaks too. Okay. Well, that completes our giveaway. All right. Next, we're going to ask Apostle Murphy to come up and, I guess, bless the food for lunch and join us. The closing prayer.
Well, I can truly say that today has been just tremendous in more ways than one. And I wish you'd join me in just giving a hand to the Alliance and to all of our speakers. I think that they have done incredibly well. You know, it's great to be in environments where you don't just get knowledge, but you learn ways to apply it. And I believe today that all of our facilitators have spoken incredibly well on not just discoveries of what could be done, but actually revealing to us ways that they can be done. To be trained and equipped, whether it's in a small way or in a large way, is really the key to development and really change and transformation. And so I'm grateful to this team that has created a setting where transformation and change can actually happen. Commissioner Leak spoke to it earlier that there were only 12 who were left with Christ that turned into 120, but they turned the world upside down. It doesn't take a lot of people to do a lot of things. Some of our strongest movements in the nation are groups that represent 1% and 2% of a population, of a region or a locale or a city. It just takes committed men and women who are sick and tired of things being like they are, and then realize that they've been put on the earth to bring change. And so I salute all of you today that have attended, because something in you is saying, I've been put on the earth for a purpose, more than just getting up, living, going through my day, but I've been put on the earth so that it would matter that I was born. And so all of you carrying the bins that you carry, the skill sets, the talents, the endowments, we can really make change. And I think that from here, we just look at how can we begin to gather other men and women with us that feel the same way. And they're there. It's amazing what happens when we just have a conversation with people and you begin to find out their burdens, their passions, their interests. But I believe that all of us, when we understand the importance and the value of being patriarchs and matriarchs in a city and to our school system, we realize that we have a lot to talk about there as it relates to educating our children, that they will be incredible as impactors of our society. And it begins with them being educated. And so children are extremely important to the economy of God and his kingdom, and to empower them and to strengthen them. We never know what they will become. I remember growing up, when I was in school, you still got paddlings. And I remember in the 7th grade, I led my school in paddlings. I got 52 paddlings for the year. And, and those weren't just one licks. I mean, it was like they needed everybody to hear what was happening that was still in the classroom. So I got 52 paddlings in the 7th grade. And then in the 8th grade, and back then you only went to school a half a day for the first day, I got a paddling between 8 and 12. And I had an educator, 2 of them, who would take breaks and smoke. And they said, Terrell, come walk with us. And they took me to the back of the school, and I'm like, another paddling? And they took me to the back of the school, and they spoke identity into me, and they spoke purpose into me, and value into me. And they awakened me to things that only parents and only guardians and caregivers can awaken in children. And in the 9th grade, I was the president of my class. But things shifted and changed that quick because someone invested into my life. And so I say to you as investors and impactors and change agents, pour into parents, pour into children. All of these kids are ours. And I know we don't like to see them with their pants down to here and their skin all out, but they're still lovable and they should still be cared about. And they still have a purpose and a destiny. I graduated from the Appalachian State University. I say that because we play good football now, because I didn't know much about the academics, because I just felt if I'm playing football, why do I have to go to class? So that was my mentality. But I didn't do well my first year in college. My first semester GPA was 0.23. There was nothing left of the decimal, just 0.23. But there were, again, people who poured into me from an early age. I had an aunt when I was drinking, smoking, doing all the unmentionables in Boone, which I know you may find unfathomable, but doing all that stuff. And she said, Terrell's going to be the first pastor in the family. And I told everybody in the family, don't hold your breath, because this was not going to happen. But the voices, the echoes that were still there from people who encouraged me, parents, leaders, teachers, I held on to so much of that, and my life transformed, and now I live my life to be useful to society. And I believe you're like me. None of us have a right to die with anything in us. It's to get it all poured out over and into some lives that would touch and impact and shift generations. It doesn't take a whole lot of people. And so let's not despise these humble beginnings, because I believe in the true realm, the spirit realm, they're more effective than we could ever imagine. So we appreciate you as a part of this alliance. We appreciate all of you who have been here today, and pray that your eyes continue to stay open and your heart soft to see children, to see parents, to touch children's lives, to touch parents' lives, and to just bring great transformation and strength to them. I'm going to pray, and then there is food. There's lunch out in the commons area. So please grab a sandwich, but also build some relationships with some people that you don't know. I have to get out here and run to a fundraiser for an organization that I have, so I don't want you to think I'm being hypocritical. We like to sign that to preachers, but not this morning. But I have to run. But please build some relationships, connect with some people. There are some confederacies here that can be formed and join with us that really bring true and everlasting impact in this city. So, Father, we thank you for the day. Thank you for just vision that you have given to men and women who desire to see this city change, but more importantly, to see the hand of the Lord working in families and working between parents and children and working in the school system. Your word says that the earth is yours and the fullness thereof. So Father, you own everything and you're concerned about everything. And there's nothing that is too hard for you. So Father, we stand in faith, believing that this mountain can be moved. This mountain of low performance can move. This mountain of racism can move. This mountain of assigned failure and tolerated failure can be moved. And so we stand as one corporate man this day, and we declare that the kingdom of God is at hand. And Father, we declare that in your kingdom, there is success, there is advancement, there is increase, there's improvement, there's unity, there's oneness, there is greatness that shall come from our children. So God, keep them safe beneath the shadow of the Almighty. Awaken them to learning. Father, we know that there's nothing too hard for you, that you're the God of the impossible, and you can awaken our children to apply themselves. And God, you can do things in the heart of parents. Your word says that the hearts of fathers should turn to sons and the hearts of sons should turn to fathers. And God, it's the same for fathers and daughters and mothers and sons. So we declare a greater turning of hearts to the children, that moms and dads and uncles and aunties and guardians would pour their life into children, that they would put themselves in environments where they can be trained and equipped to serve and lead their children into a greater place. Father, this city is an awesome city, and we're looking to you to break it out of the mobility that is presently moving in by building education and education components that are going to bear fruit and fruit that remains. And so, Father, we look to you to be merciful. Continue to release, as you have with the Alliance, wisdom, insight, knowledge, ingenuity, power, all things necessary to bring increase, enlargement, and expansion into the lives of our children, that they would become contributors to society like we've never known. And Father, let the parents be rewarded through their labor to serve and to love and to care for the children. Bless every man and woman that's here today, their household, everything they put their hands to and everything that they must do and everywhere the sole of their feet tread. And God, calls the Alliance to become an integral part of the infrastructure of this city. Allow it to become a model that will bring significant change into different places in this state and beyond. We look to you and we trust you, and we declare you God of the impossible. Breathe on what we're doing. Anoint it, God. Bring glory to it for your name's sake. And let this meeting of humble beginnings not be in vain, but let it be the seed that brings increase that's exceedingly and abundantly above all we could ask and or think. In Jesus' name, we thank you for success and advancement, unity and relationships. In Christ's name, amen. Bless you, be encouraged, and please stay tuned to the next things that we put in place to serve this community and to serve you. All right, appreciate you. God bless you.
Just outside the door in the common area is lunch. Please, please pick a lunch thing up and take it along.